In this video, we're going to talk about two methods of project evaluation. The first is payback, and the second is net present value. So we're going to go through the calculation of payback, a calculation of discounted payback, which is a little bit of adjusted method to take into account time value of money, the calculation of net present value, and then we're going to talk about the concept of salvage value. Payback is the answer to the question of when do you get your investment back. So this, you can see that this investment scheme is you put in $2,000 and then you get $1,000 back for 5 years and then $500 back on the 6th year. So the question to this is, we're going to get it back in 2 years. So we're going to get $1,000 the first year and $2,000 the second year, and that's the number of years we're getting back. That's the payback, and this is a simple question because in this case it's an even number right at 2 years. But sometimes the investment is a little bit less easy to figure it out, because in this case the $5,000, you don't get it back somewhere between the 3rd and the 4th year. So the way we calculate that is we put together a table where we have the time period, the cash flow for that time period, and then we calculate the cumulative cash flow. And we look for the time in which that goes positive, the cumulative cash flow goes positive. In this case, it's between the 3rd and the 4th year. And the exact time for that is 3.3 years, which is 3 years plus $300 over $1,000. So the problem with payback is that it doesn't include anything about the time value of money, and it also doesn't include anything about cash flows that happen after payback. So we don't care anything about what happened in the 5th or the 6th year, or the 4th or the 5th, 5th or 6th year, because it's after that 3.3 year period. And that's a little bit of a fallacy, because what if in the future you get a huge payback? That might be a very good investment. But to take care of the concept associated with time value of money, people use a discounted payback. So in this case, we assign some interest rate. And what we do is we do the same thing where we take the time period and the cash flow, but then what we do is we calculate the discounted cash flow. And in this case, you can see that the discounted cash flow in time period 1 is the cash flow in time period 1 of $1,200 discounted back to the present value. So in this case, it's just discounted 1 year to 10, and it becomes $1,090. And then what we do is we accumulate the discounted cash flow. So when we've done this, when we've taken into account time value of money, the payback occurs between the 4th and the 5th year, and actually it occurs in 4.9 years. And so that's a little bit different calculation. It's the discounted payback. And in this case, it still doesn't consider cash flows that happen after payback, but it does consider time value of money. One of the things about the discounted payback is the cumulative cash flow at the end is actually equal to the net present value. So in this particular case, what we've done is we've taken all of the cash flows and brought them back to time period 0, and we've added them up. So the net present value of this particular investment is $344. So when we calculate net present value, some people use the word net present worth, not preset, present worth, and present value or net present value. So all of those sort of mean the same thing. And it's what it is you calculate the present value of all future cash flows. If it's a single investment, if the net present value is greater than 0, then we go ahead and go with that. When we're comparing different investments, we choose the highest net present value. Sometimes that means the lowest cost, which is still the highest absolute value of net present value. And we always need to do, when we're comparing alternatives, we always need to consider an equal life alternatives. So we're going to do the summation of all the future cash flows across all of the years. So in this case, we have this cash flow of $5,000 plus $1,200 discounted 1 year, $500 discounted 2 years, $3,000 discounted 3 years, etc. And we get the 344 number, which is the same number we had on the other one. Therefore, but 344 is greater than 0, so this is a good investment. That's how we make the decision to invest in something. Now, when we're comparing alternatives, in this case, we have one alternative at the top and the second at the bottom, and it's hard to tell which is better. So on this one, we've calculated the net present value previously, and this one we're going to calculate it by using some cash flow patterns. So I have an initial $3,000 negative, $500 for 6 years, and then $1,000 for 2 years brought back to time period 0. And this ends up to be $481, and $481 is greater than $344, so therefore we're going to do the second alternative. So when we're comparing alternatives, we use equal lives and we choose the highest one. Now in this case, this is a case of something that doesn't have equal lives. So we have one that goes for 4 years and one that goes for 6 years. And what we would do in this is ask ourselves, well, what are we going to do in those last 2 years? Are we going to need this particular investment? Are we going to do some other investment? And in this case, we're just going to assume, well, you know what we're going to do is we're going to just do it for 4 years and then we'll sell this investment at the end. So this, we incorporate the concept of salvage value, which is the value of the asset at the end of some particular time period. In this case, after 4 years, how much will this investment be worth? And we're going to go ahead and say, we'll have to ask people, and I mean, there's a lot to do associated with how do we figure out how much it's worth in 4 years, but let's just say for the case of this analysis that it's $2,500. So now we're going to calculate the net present value of this. So in this case, I'm looking at this as a gradient. So we have $1,200 for 4 years plus a $300 gradient for 4 years. So it's $117. In this one, I'm going to say that it is equal annual payments for 4 years and then a $2,500 payment at the end. And that's $462. So we have 117 versus 462. So we're going to go with this highest value alternative. Now, in general, that's the calculation of payback, the calculation of discounted payback, the calculation of net present value, and the concept of salvage value have been covered in this video.